One day the sun will set and never rise again, and no one will notice until someone looks up. Do not look up. Look only down. Cast your eyes down and cower in fear of the chance of looking up. Greetings from Night Vale. Hello yet again, Night Vale. Today is quite an interesting day. Today is the grand reopening of the Night Vale Public Library. After closing their doors early last year, the library has once again allowed entrance to the bravest of the educated. The changes include removal of the lingering musky darkness behind the fantasy section, and a complete overhaul of librarians. I'm not sure what is new about the librarians, as every production assistant I have sent has yet to return. Nevertheless, people seem to be enjoying the library. Why, as I came into work this morning, I even saw Cliff, the former left hand of the sheriff, entering with several books. He signed at me energetically, and I smiled back, still not understanding sign language. He seems to have settled well in the last few weeks, even going as far as adopting a cat from the local shelter, which is extremely overloaded, and everyone should go adopt a small little kitten to love until it changes and you can no longer love it. I would absolutely love to buy one, if it were not for my daughter's allergies and my hatred for animals of any kind. In related news, many citizens have reported seeing stray animals wandering the streets, begging for food and water. The city council has asked me to remind its citizens that it's very cute how you actually think such things as stray animals exist. If you are still so gullible as to believe in strays, simply go down to the animal shelter and look for yourself. There are so many there can't be any left in the streets now, can there? Oh, here's a reliable assistant. He appears to have actually survived the trip to the library. He is bleeding from many places he should not be bleeding, and he is not bleeding from all the places he should be bleeding. Also, if Mr. Flynn would please step away from the counter, so as to not bleed into my tea, that would be appreciated. And he appears to have fallen over. Well, if he wakes up, I'll have to ask him about the library. But before then, I have exciting news, listeners. A new company has opened in town, and they have paid for an advertisement in our little radio show. Ahem. Strex. Believe in a bright future. Strex Corp Synergist Incorporated sells only the finest scientific instruments and home goods. Strex. Prepare for the future with hand-extended calendars, telling you how bright the world will be until 1996. That's over 30 years of Strex calendar. Strex, let us work, so we can help you work, and we can all fuel capitalism. Let us fuel the eternally bright cycle of true American capitalism with Strex products like Strex Pet accessories, Strex children's toys, Strex radios, and even Strex wristwatches. Strex wristwatches will run until the brightness takes over everything. Strex. 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 That was certainly a very interesting advertisement. Now, since Jacob still has yet to awaken from his blood loss-induced slumber, perhaps I can indulge myself for a little while. You know, working here is really a marvelous thing. I mean, I have been told all my life that I have a voice of an announcer, that the lilts in my voice are like sandpaper sharpening the nail before the chalkboard. When I applied for this job, I knew I would get it, but I was still nervous. More nervous than I am about existence as a whole, anyway. I suppose the only downside to the job is not being able to participate in all the wonderful cultural events that take place around town. I am instead forced to send assistants to investigate libraries, and then must wait even farther when those assistants refuse to wake up. Yes, he's up now. Welcome back to the land of the living, Jacob Flynn. Why don't you go back to doing your job, and go write that report on the library for me? Thank you. Well, I suppose I should get back to news. Our sponsor Strex Corp is a new company that has taken the building that once belonged to Abar and McCarthy, who I do not remember moving and whose car still sits in the driveway, but Strex Corp has worked around that and has turned Mr. McCarthy's car into a cubicle. As Strex Corp representative said, "Our goal at Strex Corp is to sell, sell, sell. We love to sell. Would you like to buy something?" The sales rep ran away when I told her that I didn't have my wallet, breathily shouting ancient curses at me during her retreat. I think those Strex guys need to just chill. They don't have a monstrous deity for station management who are wonderful, or the city council breathing down their neck to get out every little announcement about the goings-on of the city. Speaking of which, the city council would like to announce that the library does in fact not close, as is stated on the sign at the door. Avid readers are welcome at any time. The librarians do not sleep, but they are always hungry. All this talk about librarians has me really wanting to read Jacob's report. I'll have to have words with him about his lack of vigor. And now the business report. The circle of eateries met deep in the desert behind Test Site Canyon, where they debated whether or not to allow the first fast food restaurant into the city. The restaurant has been lurking outside of the city limits for weeks now, and I, for one, am glad to see a decision made. Hopefully they can choose quickly, without resorting to carnivorous attacks at those they disagree with. The actual restaurant in question is reportedly brightly colored and smells faintly of a memory we all pushed deep inside of ourselves. At last, here is Jacob. Report in hand, even. Thank you, boy. Let's see. This is terrible penmanship. Well, while I try and decode whatever Jacob has written, I take you to the weather. In going from room to room in the dark, I reached out blindly to save my face, but neglected however lightly to lace my fingers and close my arms in an arc. A slim door gotten past my guard, and hit me a blow in the head so hard, I had my native simile jarred. So people and things don't pair anymore with what they used to pair before. Well, I might not fully believe everything in his report, but I won't discredit Jacob by not reading it. Inside of the library were numerous books, some I couldn't even see. But I knew they were there. I could feel the words sitting heavily on the paper. Forbidden words. Terrible paper. I reached out and touched one of the books, and that was when they appeared. Librarians. Horrible, terrible librarians, looming over me with teeth reaching out for me, hands crushing together metallically. Here Jacob simply has put a large bloodstain over several holes in the paper. He is now nodding, as if that is the best description he could find. If any of you listeners want to expand your minds to the horrors of reality, you know where to go, the Night Vale Community Library. Oh, and now there are more people in my studio. Specifically a large hand known as Cliff and a young man wearing a yellow Strex Corp uniform. Cliff is rapidly signing in sign language, which I do not understand, and the Strex man is looking like he does. The Strex man is speaking for Cliff now, saying, "Leonard, I would like to speak on behalf of non-human entities in Night Vale, and they say..." Well, listeners, that certainly was an informative speech. It was so informative that I believe the Strex employee has turned into a fine cloud of dust that coats the entire studio. While I and Jacob are fine, along with Cliff, who is leaving suddenly. Thank you for that, Cliff. You spoke extremely well for a hand. As we let Cliff's words into our hearts and into our minds, as we let the words burrow deep into our darkest parts that we swore we would never again reveal, and feel it changing us in ways we never would have dared to imagine, bringing us closer to the inevitable demise of ourselves and our return to the dirt and stardust that makes up what we inhabit and defines what we are and not what we will be, bringing us closer to our quick demise at the whim of an indifferent quirk of matter. We change. Well, I will attempt to help Jacob clean up this mess. I wish he wasn't a paid employee. Then I would not have to help him. If he was something else, a volunteer, perhaps, I would have him do it himself. But no. So, listeners, think upon Cliff's words, and think not of the library. It is bookends, and it is librarians. See ya, Night Vale. See ya. Greetings from Night Vale is written, voiced, and edited by Miles Jessup. Welcome to Night Vale Belongs to Commonplace Books. This episode's weather was The Door in the Dark by Robert Frost. All music is by Kevin MacLeod.